What's going on, guys? I'm the Maha Mechanic, and today we're going to be installing a boost gauge as well as a 3-bar map sensor in this turbo toaster. So let's get into it. So Hondas in general are way easier to turbo because at least this type of K-series engine and stuff, it doesn't use a mass airflow sensor, a MAF sensor. It uses a map sensor, so not a mass airflow sensor, but it uses manifold air pressure sensor to dictate the airflow readings for the air-fuel ratio. So yeah, instead of having something in the intake system that we had to get rid of completely, and now switched over to a boosted system, and instead of worrying about all that headache, we could just replace the map sensor. So for it to run right, pushing boost, you need to upgrade the map sensor from like a naturally aspirated sensor that's only rated for a vacuum, because that's all it'll ever get is vacuum, to a upgraded like 2-bar sensor for certain levels of boost. We can install a new map sensor. So if we look down here, see right there, thing with the Phillip head screw on it on the intake manifold, that is our original map sensor. So fairly simple, just remove the screw, unplug it, plop it out, and then we can plop our new one in there. So let's do that now. So here's the old one, just a regular old map sensor, and here's the new one down in there. See, Skunk 2 3-bar map sensor. So that was a quite easy swap. Sorry I didn't film it for you guys, but it's kind of hard since everything is running around that area. But yeah, there it is. So now that we have this done, we can get on to routing wires and plumbing tubing for our boost gauge. So I removed the little stock EGR hose here that goes to the crankcase vent, because we don't want a boost getting sent to our crankcase, positive crankcase pressure. So that's a big no-no. Just decided to delete it. It'd be better to vent to atmosphere than trying to recirculate all of the gases from the crankcase to save fuel economy, because big turbo doesn't really make sense. So yeah, so I just replaced it and used the nipple to run my line for the blow-off valve, which is down here. If you want to see me route the blow-off valve and the wastegate and explain why you route the certain things, go through it and explain how they work and everything, just leave a comment down below. I'm happy to make a video on that, because sometimes it can be confusing on what a blow-off valve and a wastegate actually does, and there's a lot of misconceptions. So if you want me to make another video on that, I will. But yeah. Alright, so to route our gauge, our boost gauge here, we're going to have to tap into a boost reference on the manifold. So we got this line going to our blow-off valve that goes straight into the manifold, and we cut it right there, as you can see. Cut it, and then we're going to use a T-piece here and T into it, so it'll read vacuum and boost, which is good. So throw that on there, and then we can get on to wiring our gauge up. So now we've got the little hose provided in the AEM kit. We are going to now take our fittings, see here in the AEM gauge kit, and figure out how this all goes together. So yeah, stick with us here. Alright, so looks like this is like a little sensor block here. I don't know, it says 50 PSI on it. Anyway, it's got a little boot on the end to protect the threads, and then this is threaded. So reading between the lines here says that threads onto there. This takes our little hose piece, and then we use the sensor here, right here, and that will plug on into there, and that'll plug into the gauge. And then here are some, power, ground, signal wires that we're gonna have to run as well. So let's get this all mounted up where we need it. All right, so for routing the wires for the gauges and stuff to come from the engine bay, these don't have many holes coming through the firewall, if any, to tap into. So what I did was, if you come by the hood release and then you follow the hood release cable back, I don't know if you can see hood release cable right here, right? And then you pull this back, and you see there's a little hole here. Here's the hood release cable, there's a little hole. So for that, there's like this plugging it up. So what I think I'm going to do is use this as a makeshift grommet, kind of like drill a hole in the center, put it back in, and then feed all my wires through it. So yeah, I'm going to use some, like a little cable here for routing wires, stick it through that hole, see where it comes out, and then just tie my wires to it, pull it back through, and then slide this over the wires. So yeah, let's do that now. All right, so I got the wires for these gauges through the little hole on the bottom that I showed you guys. And now wiring them up for these gauges, this connector right here has two things that come out of it. One, it has 4 wires. It's a red, black, blue, and white. And I think they both of them have that. Yeah, see right there, red, black, blue, and white. So basically I just ran those because they come underneath here. Not very clean, but this car is literally a brick, and anything, trying to route anything through it is a brick. It's just one hunk of plastic with no holes. So anyway, I routed them through here, through like the little center door thing right here. And then I routed one of our wires, you can see over here. Just clamped these together with little clamps, because with these wires you can't really solder them. I don't know, I find it really tedious to solder like 22 gauge, whatever the wire this is. So I just opted for these things that you push wires into, and then you clamp them down and it bonds them to another wire. So I got the ground wires going to the ground on our gauge cluster. So as you can see here, just use these little clamp things. It clamps in through the insulation, just like that. This is the ground one. I moved I found a 12-volt power source ignition switched. Is the yellow, and then black is ground. Turn the key. There you go, and poo! There we go. So I know it's flashing a lot on camera, but it doesn't flash in person. Got the gauges run. Good. So if you're using the same AEM boost gauge as I am, you're not going to be using the you see here, the blue and white wires for anything. You just kind of tape those up and leave them there. I think it's for if you want to daisy chain multiple gauges together instead of finding separate sources and stuff. So yeah, you don't really use that. They're just output wires. And if you're running just a boost gauge, then there's no point in it. So yeah, so you just use red for power, black for ground, and yeah. So as you can see here, got our T-piece there, and ran the wire for the boost gauge to the fitting here. So it did come with a zip tie. We'll go ahead and throw that on there before we tighten everything down. But you can see over here, I'm just gonna tighten it to this part, just as a little zip tie around the, I got the wires zip tied together, and then we can just hide all of this up in there. And I put duct tape right here. I mean, it's a rounded edge, so it's not sharp at all. But just in case, I put some duct tape on there so that it would definitely not be sharp. And then we'll just tuck everything back there, kind of like that, up underneath here. And then zip tie this back there, and that'll do it. All right, see here, line coming up here, line tucked up in there. Might add a little zip tie through here to kind of keep it tucked a little bit. But anyway, and it goes up into here where the module is zip tied to the roof, right underneath there, if you could see. But yeah, so it's right back there, pretty solid, not gonna go anywhere. So yeah, now that we've got all our cold side sensors on, gauge I should say, got our boost sensor and our boost gauge. Battery's not hooked up right now, but this is our boost gauge right here. Now that we've got that all finished up, we finally got this thing one step closer to starting and wreaking havoc on the streets. So if you found this video informative, please be sure to like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more. Remember, no matter your experience or your skill level, keep on improving.